Okay, everybody, welcome back. We are going to start project 10 today, which is the 90-degree elbow with the square back and the square throat. So the square back here, or the heel, and the square throat, and size it up accordingly. So we've got two cheeks to make, a left and a right hand cheek, and then that heel in the throat. So we'll get on with that. And so we'll set that one aside. That's the finished product, what we're after here. So we're going to grade it to plus or minus 1/8 of an inch to our dimensions. So this page just has some write-up of some allowances and things like that go along with just a general figure. These dimensions are not the dimensions you want to use. These are just an example piece. On this page, on page here, 52, I guess, is the dimensions that we're after to make the cheeks. So there's two of them required. We're going to start off. I've already got the left hand part made here, so I'm going to show you how I do the mirror image of it, and then I'll bend both of them at the same time. So let's get started. First thing I had to do is determine the dimensions of my part. So I looked at my plan up here. I'll slide that under the view there, and hopefully you can see that there's some dimension lines and leader lines and everything down here for you to determine those numbers based on. So I always like to start with my biggest numbers. So I noticed that I've got a 10-inch dimension here, and it just goes to the inside, and then there's this small bit of material here that if I drop back down, I can find that there's a 1/4-inch dimension for that. So that gives me 10 1/4 for that section. And then if I come over to this side, the 10-inch brought me up, and I know that there's a 1/4-inch section for this, but I've got to be careful that when I read my next dimension that I take it from my 10, or rather the 2 inches, and then finish off with this remaining 1/2 inch on this dimension here in between the lines there. So altogether what we're looking at is 10 and 2 is 12 and a half, so 12 and a half, and then don't forget this 1/4, or 12 and 3/4. In the same, being this piece is identical top and bottom, they're both 12 and 3/4 by 12 and 3/4. So I went and cut those using the shear over there, and they should come out 12 and 3/4 by 12 and 3/4, both of them identical. This part's kind of nice. We don't have to worry about exactly a left and a right, because we can just simply rotate the piece from our left hand and get our right hand. But say if the dimensions were different, say if this wasn't a 10 and a 10-inch opening here, say it was a 10-inch and an 8-inch opening, we would have to make certain that we make a mirror image, because you would not be able to rotate that. You're going to have to make that mirror image on the other side, and you want to try to keep that lettering to the inside so it's hidden, and you give yourself a nice clean piece. So let's go ahead and show you how to make this. So the first thing I started off with was my my scribe here with the different dimensions on it, and I'm going to do the mirror of this one, and it says we need to have a 1/4 inch across the top in the heel, or the 1/4 inch around the heel side. So previously the heel was on the left, now we're going to make it on the right. So with that, we are going to find our 1/4 inch mark with the scribe here, and we'll slide that down that side as well as the top. So we're sitting just like this all the way around. Now we've got to figure out these dimensions inside here for these 1/4 inch marks. So we know that it's, the first mark is 10 plus the 1/4, or 10 1/4 inches away, and then another 1/4 inch from this one. So 10 1/4 and 10 and a half off the edge of the sheet. So we're going to go ahead and use our tape measure and our scribe, or sorry, our scratch awl for this here. So we've got a 10-inch opening plus the 1/4 down there. That gives us 10 1/4 up here, and then an additional 1/4 for the internal throats lock form. So 10 1/4 and 10 and a half. And then we'll do the same. Remember, I'm trying to do the mirror image, so we're going to take into this section as well. So we need 10 1/4 and 10 and a half there as well. 10 1/4 and 10 and a half right there. Okay, got our notch already. Now we're going to extend those marks to make our little box that we've got to cut out of here, or out of this side of that piece. So I'm going to take my scratch all in my square, and we'll extend them up far enough to reach what we need. Spin it around here so I can work with it a little bit. And we'll make the last 2 marks that we need there. Set it back in the same location it was. Now at this point I've got all the marks, the necessary fabrication marks that I need. The plan, although, does draw these 1/2-inch marks. Now they're nothing really to worry about. They're just stating that that is going to be an area for a slip and drive down the road here after a while. So I don't usually mark my 1/2-inch. I just take my notcher and know that they're taken into account. But you can do whatever you need. If it helps you do the dimensions, we go ahead. But at this point in time, I'm going to take my notcher and I'm going to cut my reliefs out of the piece. So we need that one there. This one's a 1/4 inch in, and then in between the 2 marks we should have 10 inches. And then if you like, you can use your notcher for that last 1/4. Makes no difference. It's all going to be cut out anyway with that. So it's up to you. You can cut it out or you can just notch it. I like to notch it because I can see my marks a little better, and it helps me make certain that I cut it on the right line. So just doing the same thing on the, I don't know, the leading edge of the part there. And that's all the notches that we have to take out of this. So at this point in time, I'll just flip this one over so you can see the mirror image of it. I've got my notches taken out of this portion of the part. So just flip that back over. Now I'm going to cut out the square, being very careful that I don't cut on the inside line. I want to save that 1/4 inch for my lock form. So I'm going to do that just with a simple 10 snips. You can use whatever style you want, whatever's convenient, and then just square them out, being careful not to cut too far into the piece on both edges there. Make sure your snips is square, and we'll cut that square section out of there as well. These snips do usually give you a little bit of a straighter cut on those straight ones, but for doing any sort of radius, I do like to use the green handled and the red handled snips with an offset. The jaws are offset, so it gets your hands up out of the metal. But again, it's all preference. At this point in time, in order to bend these after a while, I do have to make a relief in the center, so just 45 the corner, and then we'll get rid of these sharp tails. I don't want to cut them off straight because that's going to get in the road later, so we'll just set a couple degrees back and snip them out of there and throw those pieces right in the trash can if at all possible, so they're not in your shoes and in your homeowner's carpeting or wood floors or whatever. Okay, so I've got them pretty well cut off. So later on we're going to bend these, the outside heel up to a 90 and the inside throat to a 90 so we can lock that in our lock form. There's one more relief that I got to cut out here, and that's this last bit, because obviously we can't bend a square and make that work out. So I'm just going to cut that off at a 45, little triangular, right triangle out of that corner. Okay, with that we've got those 2 cheeks, the left and the right, done, and they're a mirror image of one another. It's not a big deal on this one because they're both the same size, but if it was, again, that if this was 8 inch and 10 inch, you would not be able to turn it and have the left and the right hand piece. It would give you some fits. So anyway, essentially we got a section that looks like that for our left and our right, or maybe a better view would be taking it over to the fitting and showing you what we've got going on. Notice it is a little bit taller because they're not bent yet. So let's go ahead and bend them. Let's start with the biggest bends first on these parts. And we're just going to slip it in the apron brake here, right on that 1/4 inch mark, and we're going to bend them up to a 90 degree. Now I can't put it back in the brake there because it hits the apron, so I've got to slide it to the edge where there's this relief cut out so you can make your fabrication marks. I do try to keep it as close to it as possible without crushing it or anything, for that added support when you do make that bend though, but it usually works out. Oops, can be a little bit tedious. Just making certain you get it set up on the right spot, and again we're going to pull it up just to a 90. Okay, After that, we go to the inside portion, and we've got to bend them. I can't bend these in the apron brake because they are too small and I can't bend the whole entire piece. So we use our hand seamers in order to do this. Just simply putting the edge right on the 1/4 inch mark that we previously made on here. And then with putting pressure down, we're going to bend it up to a 90 degree right on the table there. And then we'll do the same with the other corner. And they should come out right perfectly on the 2.5 inch marks as the plan requires, so 2.5 right there. Okay, let's finish this other piece just like that. And so we're going to bend them all the other, essentially a mirror image of it. So again, drop it in the apron brake. We'll lock it down there, and we'll bend that up to a 90 degree. Make the turn. Lock it down at the 1/4 inch there, and bend that one to a 90 as well. Then we'll right back to this tool, our hand seamers. With pressure down on the table, bring that one up and do the same on this other corner. Okay, that will complete the left hand and the right hand cheek.